May I invite you, ma'am, for the presentation.
It's a very difficult time to be squeezed in between hungry audiences and lunch. But I'll try to take the promised 10 minutes and no more. If the presentation is ready. And there's a small audio clip. Okay. So, asset monetization of railway heritage sites. As I spoke in the panel earlier, there was legacy infrastructure for railways which was very old, and we all are trying so hard to renew it through contracts and new visions of mobility. However, next page. Okay. So India has over 150 years of industrial heritage. Railway heritage is an important part of it. And tangibles which we have are plant and machinery, land and workspaces, but the intangibles which are more important to us are the shared lessons that we have to learn from it. What you see on the screen is a map of the inventory of heritage infrastructure. Now, this is not limited to railways. There are power plants, there are old mines, there are railways, ports, and many such. The whole map of India is full of infrastructure which perhaps today does not feed the needs of an economic giant like India. But to go only after railways and classify it as defunct infrastructure is perhaps a little unfair. This is a report from Tiki India, and it maps down over 100 such sites. I'll just request, there's an audio visual which I have mailed earlier, if the team could put it on, a small video. The success stories from India and the world, which I would like to present here, because this is a room full of very smart people who feed their ideas into infrastructure projects. Your videos are also watched offline by the more busy people when they have more time, not just the people in the hall. So I'd like to show to you the ways in which heritage infrastructure has been incorporated into mega projects all across the world. All of these are centered around 5 important themes: adaptive reuse or placemaking, transport facilities which are iconic landmarks, affordable housings, hotels or offices, museums of industrial heritage, one of which is also the National Rail Museum, and educational institutions. Adaptive reuse and placemaking, what you see on your screen is the Manhattan Mile. This is an elevated line, a railway line, which runs through New York City, and its linear length has been converted into a biodiversity park, a walkway, where you can view the whole city from a perspective which is very unusual. Now, this is very innovative use of railway infrastructure which no longer serve the needs of the city. In Tai Kwun, also Mandarin for big station in Hong Kong, they have retained the heritage building. 16 such facades are retained. At the back you can see the modern infrastructure, but this heritage infrastructure has been incorporated. So viewing railway assets should not be so restrictive as to hang on to old and dilapidated buildings. I think there are very innovative new ways in which infrastructure can be plugged into projects which are of a modern nature, fulfilling the needs of modern nation. Placemaking India is a blog which I encourage all designers to follow. And please do think about railway as not just the rail but also the way. The way, the linear route, which is also an asset which can be monetized. So people change spaces to places. Stations are where the railway meets the city. The journey as well as the destination is important, and therefore the focus is not just on station development, but also on Vistadome coaches. I see Agarwal is smiling. Rail-only tourism offerings and pauses to appreciate the landscape as well as look after heritage. Iconic landmarks in transportation, the photograph is of St. Pancras Station, a brilliant example where almost a 200-year-old building has been repurposed as a modern railway station. You'd love to catch a train from St. Pancras. You could travel through the modern section of it, through the Channel Tunnel train across to Europe and to Paris from London. But also you could have an experience of high street retail, lots of cultural and arts performances, and therefore a very great mix of the old and the new. Gare du Nord, Grand Central, and our own Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj terminus, all of them brilliantly built heritage buildings. They were mega projects in their time, and today they have been repurposed accordingly. This is an AV which I don't know if they can prepare, but you must Google it and try to look at it. Just last week, the 175-year-old Russian railway put together a passenger train of 100 coaches length. And this is a railway heritage site. This is a UNESCO Heritage World Railway, just like our Darjeeling and Nilgiri and Shimla. They had 7 trains together. They ran it one by one, covering the entire length. So you can see like a huge snake, the entire Albula-Bernina route has been covered. And which sort of gives a message that heritage is not just old rolling stock, heritage is not just ancient buildings. It is the engineering which railway minds and railway engineers bring together. Please do watch the video whenever you have time. Affordable housing, it's important because we must evolve in thinking from Indian Railways as a colonial legacy to an economic enabler. So on the left you have a picture of Lahore station in the mid-1800s, where you can see the Indian chap, can you see them in the corner? He is waiting for this massive steam locomotive, a symbol of colonial dominance, to arrive. Look at the scale and proportion. The station is huge, the pillars are tall, but he is silently at a corner waiting for the train to come, and he's certainly inferior to the rest of the scope. However, in a modern, this is a simple GIF, you can find 100 pictures. But in modern nation today, you will see the Indian, the common man, right front and center, and using railway facilities as an economic enabler. That's where railway heritage needs to bridge across from heritage to modernity. We have a lovely handbook. This is again a note of caution. Railways and urban infrastructure projects should develop such things. A handbook of conservation of heritage buildings, which is CPWD has one, which tells you what to keep and what to build over. Preserving heritage values while repurposing. So on the left again, you have a picture of Anhalter Bahnhof in Berlin, where the old bombed building has been retained as a symbol of the past, but the more modern Siemens office is at the back, and you can see how modern that is. Industrial heritage museums, we have our own in Shimla and in Bhopal, the Baba Balku Museum and the Remembering Bhopal. Both significant markers of how industry has shaped society. London Transport Museum and the Deutsche Bahn Museum in Berlin. Establishing a museum at a heritage site is again a great way to monetize that asset, because not only does it give some history to the site, it also gives it some background and tells you why that space is important. One of the last but more significant methods to map into the nearest educational institutions. So you have rail transit points that are close to university campuses, and they can be used for branding and advertisements or adopt a station initiatives. I give you 3 examples. The Dinky train at Princeton, where it's a 2-car train. Every time NJ Transit tries to change or stop this service, there's a lot of outcry from Princeton and they have to reinstate it. There's Birmingham in UK, where the university has its own station, and our own DMRC station stop at IIT Delhi. So again, a lot of rail transit points will be near educational institutions, which become natural ways to monetize the asset. Of course, can't conclude this without a last word on heritage railways, Darjeeling, Shimla and Nilgiri, and also Matheran, which has recently started again due to the efforts of the Central Railway. Kangra Valley Railway, which again is undergoing some sort of rebuild. They were built under government guarantee. So they were the metro projects 150 years ago. 7% government guarantee. But they had multiple stakeholders, not just the railways. The landscape, the route, the vistas, and the experience of that journey was important. And which is what we are trying to recreate now, because Darjeeling, of course, it spends more than it earns, and a lot of criticism. An aging asset cannot forever be sustained by government funds alone. So what we have done is capitalized on the more scenic routes, have jungle toy train safaris, and you'd be happy to know that for the first year running, Darjeeling has actually made an operational profit this year. And community connect and stakeholders are so important. We still have chartered steam strips because they're very popular with foreigners. But we do cater to the larger bulk of the domestic tourists. Site museums and railway heritage is important, but so is the storytelling. So thank you so much again for giving me 10 minutes to tell you the story. And once again, a reminder, please do look at the Switzerland effort. It's excellent. Conclusion, one moment, last slide, ma'am. Heritage values are both technical as well as the intangibles, and the narrative is important. Similarly, involving stakeholders in conservation and design, and looking at long-term paybacks, not just the building, not just the ticket price of the museum, is important. If we build a destination and we focus on ideas that resonate with the community, we will certainly be successful in integrating heritage into our modern infrastructure projects and in asset monetization. Thank you. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you very much indeed.